The silence in space was absolute, as Admiral Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Defiance, watching the massive alien fleet materialize around them. One moment there had been empty void. The next moment 300 ships of impossible design filled the darkness like predators circling wounded prey. Each vessel dwarfed the Defiance, their hulls gleaming with technologies that Earth scientists could barely comprehend. "Admiral," Lieutenant Brooks whispered from her station, her voice tight with barely controlled fear. "They're scanning us. Energy readings are off the charts. Any one of those ships could vaporize us without even charging their main weapons." Kane nodded slowly, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he studied the alien formation. After 40 years in Earth's military, he had learned to read the language of power, and these ships spoke fluently. The lead vessel, a crystalline behemoth that seemed to bend light around its edges, moved with the grace of absolute confidence. Its captain knew they held all the cards. "Sir," Communications Officer Davis called out, his voice cracking slightly. "We're receiving a transmission. They're demanding our immediate surrender and ordering us to prepare for boarding." "Of course they are," Kane murmured, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Open a channel, Mr. Davis. Let's see what the mighty Galactic Council has to say." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the bridge of the alien command ship. The figure that appeared was humanoid, but wrong in subtle ways that made Kane's crew shift uncomfortably. Its skin had the texture of polished stone, its eyes were pools of liquid silver, and when it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that seemed to resonate in their bones. "I am Fleet Commander Valdris of the Galactic Council Enforcement Division," the alien said, its words translated by technology far beyond Earth's understanding. "You are Admiral Kane of the terrorist organization known as Humanity. You will surrender your vessel immediately and submit to Council justice for your species' crimes against galactic peace." Kane stepped forward, his expression calm despite the overwhelming odds. "Terrorist organization? That's an interesting way to describe a diplomatic mission, Commander. We came to you in peace, remember? Your people invited us to present our case to the Council." Valdris's silver eyes narrowed. "Your deception ends now, human. In 20 standard days, your primitive species has brought 10,000 years of galactic peace to its knees. Entire systems are in chaos. Trade routes have collapsed. The very foundations of our civilization are crumbling. This diplomatic mission was nothing more than an elaborate pretext for the most devastating attack in galactic history." The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of ship systems. Kane's crew exchanged glances, confusion clear on their faces. They knew about the diplomatic mission to the Galactic Council, of course. Earth's greatest minds had spent months preparing humanity's petition to join galactic civilization. But this talk of attacks and chaos made no sense. Kane, however, showed no surprise at the accusations. If anything, his smile widened slightly. "Attack?" he repeated, his tone genuinely curious. "Commander, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Humanity hasn't attacked anyone. We've been quite busy, yes, but all of our activities have been completely legal according to galactic law. In fact, I believe we've been rather helpful." The alien commander's form rippled with what might have been rage. "Helpful? Your species has systematically dismantled our infrastructure, crippled our communications, and paralyzed our military capabilities. Worlds that have known peace for millennia are now cutting off all contact with the outside galaxy. The economic system that has sustained countless civilizations is in complete collapse. And you call this helpful?" Kane turned slightly, addressing his confused crew as much as the alien commander. "You see, the problem with peace that lasts 10,000 years is that it makes people forget certain fundamental truths. Commander Valdris and his people have created a galaxy where war is literally unthinkable. They've conditioned themselves psychologically to be incapable of aggression, designed their systems around the assumption that no one would ever want to hurt them." He faced the screen again, his gray eyes meeting the alien's silver gaze. "But they forgot that not everyone thinks the way they do. They forgot that sometimes the greatest threats come not from those who break the rules, but from those who follow them in ways no one expected." The alien leaned forward, its stone-like features twisting into an expression of barely contained fury. "You dare lecture us on warfare? We who achieved perfect peace when your son was young? We who have transcended the barbarism that still plagues your species?" "Transcended?" Kane laughed, the sound echoing through both bridges. "Commander, you didn't transcend warfare. You simply forgot how to recognize it when it was happening to you. For 20 days, humanity has been systematically gaining control of every major system in your galaxy. We now control 67% of galactic infrastructure, from manufacturing to communications to transportation. And the beautiful irony is that you paid us to do it. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Kane's own crew stared at him in shock, beginning to understand the magnitude of what they were hearing. Impossible, Valdris whispered. Our security systems would have detected any hostile infiltration. Our treaties prohibit any member species from attempting to subvert galactic infrastructure. Kane's smile was genuinely sympathetic now. You're absolutely right on both counts, Commander. But here's what you missed. Humanity isn't a member species. We're still technically outsiders, which means your treaties don't apply to us, and we didn't infiltrate anything. We were invited. Every system we now control, every piece of infrastructure we've optimized, every communication network we've streamlined, it was all done openly, legally, and with the full cooperation of your people. The truth was starting to dawn on the alien commander, and with it came a look of horror that transcended species barriers. You see, Kane continued, his voice taking on the tone of a teacher explaining a complex concept to a slow student. When Earth petitioned to join the Galactic Council, we were told we needed to demonstrate our value to galactic civilization, so we offered the one thing humanity has always excelled at: solving problems. Your people had inefficient logistics networks, so we optimized them. Your communication systems were running at subpar capacity, so we upgraded them. Your manufacturing processes were outdated, so we modernized them. Kane paused, letting the implications sink in. The fact that our solutions happened to give us operational control of your entire galaxy was just a happy coincidence. Commander Valdris's form was trembling now, whether with rage or fear was impossible to tell. This is an act of war. The Council will never accept such treachery. War? Kane's expression turned serious for the first time. Commander, this isn't war. War would have required us to destroy things, to kill people, to break your precious treaties. This is just business. Very, very good business, the Admiral gestured to his crew, who were still processing the revelation that they were apparently at the center of the galaxy's first successful conquest in 10 millennia. The question now, Commander, is whether the Galactic Council wants to discuss terms as equals, or whether they'd prefer to find out what humanity can accomplish when we actually decide to be hostile. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge of the Defiance in stunned silence. Outside the viewports, the alien fleet held its position, but Kane could see the uncertainty in their formations. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council faced an enemy they didn't understand, and humanity was just getting started. 3 weeks earlier, the massive Galactic Council station hung in space like a crystal cathedral, its spires reaching across kilometers of void in impossible geometries that defied Earth's understanding of physics. Ambassador Lisa Martinez pressed her face to the viewport of the transport shuttle, watching in awe as their small vessel approached the structure that had served as the seat of galactic government for over 8,000 years. First time seeing the Nexus? Asked Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the head of Earth's scientific delegation. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had spent her entire career studying alien technology, from the fragments that had made their way to Earth through various black market channels. Martinez nodded, unable to tear her gaze away from the sight. The pictures don't do it justice. How many species live here? 47 member races plus thousands of support staff, diplomatic corps, and administrative personnel, Rodriguez replied. Population somewhere around 12 million beings, and they're all about to meet humanity for the first time. The irony wasn't lost on Martinez. For 2 centuries, ever since Earth had achieved faster-than-light travel, humanity had known about the Galactic Council. They had monitored human expansion into space with the patience of adults watching children play with dangerous toys, occasionally sending polite but firm warnings when human colonies got too close to established trade routes or important systems. The message had always been the same. Grow up first, then we'll talk. Now finally, Earth had been invited to present their case for membership. It had taken decades of careful diplomacy, numerous demonstrations of human technological progress, and finally, a formal petition signed by every major Earth government. The Council had agreed to hear their request, though the tone of the invitation had been distinctly patronizing. As their shuttle docked with the station, Martinez felt the weight of humanity's future pressing down on her shoulders. Everything depended on the next few days. The welcoming committee was impressive in its diversity. 7 different species stood in the docking bay, each representing a different aspect of council governance. The Keltorian delegate was a graceful being with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water. The Vorthak representative resembled a massive insect, its chitinous shell decorated with intricate patterns that probably held deep cultural meaning. The Altarian floated in a containment field, its gaseous form swirling with colors that had no names in human language. "Welcome to Nexus Station," said the lead figure, a being whose species Martinez recognized as Zephyrian from the diplomatic briefings. They were the closest thing to humanoid in the group, though their translucent skin and oversized eyes gave them an ethereal quality that was distinctly alien. "I am Counselor Thane, appointed to guide your delegation during your stay." "We trust your journey was pleasant?" "Very much so, Counselor," Martinez replied, executing the formal bow that her cultural advisors had drilled into her. Humanity is honored by this opportunity to address the council. As they walked through the station's corridors, Martinez was struck by the casual display of technologies that Earth scientists could only dream of. Gravity fields that shifted direction based on local needs, transportation tubes that moved beings at impossible speeds without any apparent acceleration, information displays that projected directly into the minds of passing individuals, automatically translating into their native languages. This was a civilization that had transcended the limitations that still bound humanity. The question was whether Earth had anything to offer in return. Their first formal meeting took place in what the Zephyrians called a diplomatic suite, though it was larger than most Earth government buildings. The delegation from Earth was small by necessity. Martinez as chief diplomat, Rodriguez as scientific advisor, and General Patricia Hayes as military liaison. Facing them were representatives from a dozen council species, each bringing millennia of experience in galactic governance. "Your petition for membership has been reviewed by the preliminary committee," Counselor Thane began, his voice carrying harmonics that the universal translator rendered as gentle authority. "Your species shows promise in several areas. Your technological development has been remarkably rapid, and your expansion into space shows admirable ambition." Martinez sensed a but coming and wasn't disappointed. "However," continued the Keltorian representative, her forearms moving in complex gestures that emphasized her words, "there remain significant concerns about humanity's suitability for council membership. Your species has a documented history of warfare that continues even now. Your political systems are fragmented and often hostile to each other. Most concerning, your approach to problem-solving tends toward violence and aggression." General Hayes leaned forward slightly. "With respect, Counselor, human history shows a clear trend toward peace. Our last major global conflict ended over 3 centuries ago. We've established a planetary government that, while still evolving, has successfully prevented large-scale warfare for generations." The Vorthak delegate's mandibles clicked in what the translator indicated was amusement. 3 centuries, child. Some of us have personal memories spanning longer than your entire recorded history. The peace you speak of is barely a moment in the scale of true civilization. Martinez felt the meeting slipping away from them and made a calculated decision. "You're absolutely right," she said, surprising everyone in the room. "Humanity is young, aggressive, and prone to solving problems through conflict. We don't deny this. In fact, it's exactly why we're here." The room fell silent, alien eyes focusing on her with sudden interest. "For 10,000 years, the galaxy has enjoyed unprecedented peace," Martinez continued. "You've created a civilization free from war, conquest, and large-scale violence. It's a remarkable achievement that humanity can only admire." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "But in all that time, have you ever stopped to consider what you might have forgotten? What knowledge and capabilities you might have lost in your pursuit of perfect peace?" Dr. Rodriguez smoothly picked up the thread. "Human military theorists have studied the historical records available to us about galactic civilization. We've identified numerous potential vulnerabilities in current council systems, not because we wish to exploit them, but because our unique perspective allows us to see threats that a peaceful civilization might miss." Counselor Thane's translucent features showed what might have been curiosity. You're suggesting that your violent nature gives you insights that we lack? We're suggesting that humanity might serve as a valuable early warning system, Martinez replied. Think of us as consultants specializing in the kinds of threats that peaceful civilizations don't naturally anticipate. In exchange for membership in the Council, we would be happy to share our analysis of galactic defensive capabilities. The proposal hung in the air like a challenge. Martinez could see the delegates conferring among themselves in rapid bursts of untranslated communication. Finally, the Altarian's gaseous form pulsed with what the translator rendered as skeptical interest. You wish to teach us about warfare? We who achieved peace when your son was young? Not teach, General Hayes said carefully. Learn. We want to study your systems, understand how you've maintained peace for so long, and see if our perspective might help strengthen those systems. We're not offering to fix anything. We're offering to help you understand if anything needs fixing. It was a masterful piece of diplomatic jujitsu. Instead of asking to be accepted despite their violent nature, humanity was offering their violent nature as a service. They weren't trying to hide their aggressive tendencies. They were packaging those tendencies as a valuable resource that the galaxy needed. 3 days of negotiations followed. The Council delegates were clearly intrigued by the proposal, though many remained skeptical. The idea of allowing a warrior species to analyze their defensive systems went against every instinct of a civilization built on peace. But curiosity won out over caution, as humanity had hoped it would. The Council will agree to a limited engagement, Councillor Thane announced on the 4th day. A team of human analysts will be granted access to certain non-classified aspects of galactic infrastructure. You will have 30 days to prepare a comprehensive report on potential vulnerabilities. If your analysis proves valuable, we will consider full membership. Martinez felt a surge of triumph that she carefully kept off her face. We're honored by your trust, Counselor. Our team will need access to logistics networks, communication systems, manufacturing databases, and transportation schedules to properly assess defensive capabilities. That seems reasonable, the Keltorian delegate agreed. We'll provide liaison officers to ensure you have everything you need. As the meeting concluded with formal ceremonies and diplomatic pleasantries, Martinez caught Dr. Rodriguez's eye. The scientist's expression was carefully neutral, but there was a gleam in her eyes that suggested she understood the magnitude of what they had just achieved. Humanity hadn't just gained access to galactic civilization. They had convinced the galaxy's most powerful institutions to voluntarily open their most critical systems to human analysis. The Council thought they were hiring consultants to identify weaknesses. The Galactic Council's Strategic Analysis Center was a marvel of alien architecture that spanned 3 levels of Nexus Station's North Spire. Holographic displays showed real-time data from across the galaxy, trade routes pulsing with merchant traffic, communication networks carrying billions of conversations, manufacturing centers producing everything from starship components to everyday household items. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the center of it all, her human eyes taking in information flows that represented the heartbeat of galactic civilization. Impressive, isn't it? Asked Analyst Prime Cathara, the Zephyrian officer assigned as humanity's primary liaison. Her translucent form flickered with patterns of light that indicated professional pride. This facility monitors over 14 million separate data streams simultaneously. We can track the movement of individual cargo containers across 300 star systems. Rodriguez nodded appreciatively while her mind cataloged every detail. The integration is remarkable. On Earth, we still struggle to coordinate data between individual nations. This level of seamless information sharing must have taken millennia to develop. Indeed. The current system represents over 6,000 years of continuous refinement, Cathara replied. Each species contributed their expertise to create something greater than the sum of its parts. Perfect harmony through perfect information. Perfect harmony, Rodriguez repeated thoughtfully. That's interesting phrasing. Does that mean the system has no redundancies? No backup protocols for handling conflicting data? Cathara's light patterns shifted to what the translator indicated was mild confusion. Why would we need such things? The system operates on consensus protocols. All data is verified through multiple sources before integration. Conflict is impossible by design. Rodriguez felt a chill of excitement that she carefully kept hidden. Of course, silly question. On Earth, we're still dealing with competing interests and unreliable information sources. We're not used to systems built on universal trust. Over the following days, Rodriguez and her team of human analysts threw themselves into studying galactic infrastructure with the enthusiasm of students given access to the greatest library in the universe. They requested data on everything: power generation and distribution networks, food production and transportation systems, communication protocols, manufacturing processes, resource allocation algorithms. Their alien hosts were remarkably cooperative. After all, the humans were here to help identify vulnerabilities and strengthen galactic defenses. The more complete their understanding of the system, the better their analysis would be. The manufacturing sector is particularly interesting, reported Dr. James Park during one of their daily briefings. Park was Earth's leading expert on supply chain logistics, a thin man with an obsessive attention to detail that had made him legendary in academic circles. The entire galaxy operates on just-in-time delivery principles. There are virtually no strategic reserves of raw materials or finished goods anywhere in the system. Rodriguez leaned forward. Explain that. Think about it, Park continued, pulling up a holographic display that showed cargo flows across a dozen star systems. When you have perfect transportation networks and flawless demand prediction, why would you waste resources on storage? Everything is manufactured exactly when and where it's needed, then shipped immediately to its destination. It's incredibly efficient. And incredibly fragile, added Dr. Sarah Kim, their communications specialist. I've been analyzing the data routing protocols for their information networks. Every message, every data packet, every communication signal is routed through a series of optimization nodes that ensure maximum efficiency and minimum energy usage. She gestured to her own display, showing the galaxy's communication backbone as a web of pulsing light. But here's the thing. There are exactly 17 primary routing nodes that handle interstellar communications for the entire galaxy. If something happened to just 3 or 4 of them, entire sectors would be cut off from the network. Rodriguez felt pieces clicking into place in her mind like a puzzle solving itself. What about redundancy? Backup systems? That's the beautiful part, Kim replied with a smile that would have terrified her alien observers if they had understood human facial expressions. They don't believe in redundancy. Why duplicate a system that works perfectly? Why maintain backup protocols for failures that never happen? It would be wasteful and inefficient. The human team worked with quiet intensity over the following weeks, their alien liaisons impressed by their thoroughness and attention to detail. The humans asked intelligent questions, made insightful observations, and demonstrated an understanding of large-scale systems that surprised even the most skeptical council members. What the aliens didn't realize was that humanity was conducting 2 analyses simultaneously. The first was the official study they had been hired to perform, a comprehensive assessment of galactic defensive capabilities against external threats. The second was a much more focused examination of how to bring galactic civilization to its knees without firing a single shot. The key insight, Rodriguez explained during a private meeting in their secured quarters, is that they've confused stability with security. Their entire civilization is built on the assumption that everyone wants the same thing: peace, prosperity, and mutual cooperation. General Hayes, who had been quietly observing the aliens' military protocols, nodded grimly. Their fleet commanders are tactically competent, but they haven't fought a real war in millennia. All their training scenarios focus on external threats or natural disasters. They've never considered the possibility of an enemy that doesn't announce itself. More than that, Park added, they've never considered economic warfare. Their entire resource allocation system is based on trust and mutual cooperation. There are no safeguards against systematic manipulation of their logistics networks. Rodriguez stood and walked to their own tactical display, showing a simplified version of galactic infrastructure. So here's what we're going to propose. Officially, we'll deliver exactly what they asked for: a comprehensive analysis of potential vulnerabilities in their defensive systems. We'll identify weak points in their fleet deployments, gaps in their sensor networks, logistical vulnerabilities that external enemies might exploit. She paused, her finger tracing paths across the display. Unofficially, we're going to offer solutions. Humanity has always been good at fixing problems, and we'll be very eager to help our new alien friends optimize their systems for better security. The Trojan horse approach, Hayes said with approval. They invite us in to help them, and we improve their systems so much that they can't function without us. Exactly. But we need to be subtle. Every improvement we make has to genuinely enhance their capabilities while simultaneously creating dependencies on human oversight and maintenance. Kim pulled up her analysis of communication networks. I've already identified several optimization algorithms that could improve their data routing efficiency by 12%. The side effect is that the optimized protocols require constant adjustment by human technicians who understand the underlying mathematics. Park nodded enthusiastically. Same with their logistics networks. I can design routing algorithms that will reduce transportation costs and delivery times significantly. The algorithms are just complex enough that they need human oversight to function properly. Perfect, Rodriguez said. We offer them everything they want. Improved efficiency, better security, optimized performance. All we ask in return is the opportunity to implement and maintain these improvements ourselves. The next day, Rodriguez presented their preliminary findings to an assembly of council representatives in the Strategic Analysis Center's main auditorium. The holographic displays showed a galaxy-spanning network of potential vulnerabilities, each one carefully identified and documented by the human analysis team. The fundamental challenge, Rodriguez explained to her audience of alien officials, is that your civilization has achieved such remarkable peace and stability that you've never needed to develop certain defensive capabilities. This is not a criticism. It's an achievement that humanity can only admire, but it does create specific vulnerabilities that less peaceful civilizations might exploit. She gestured to a display showing fleet deployment patterns. Your naval forces are optimally positioned for rapid response to external threats, but they're not configured to handle multiple simultaneous incidents across different sectors. A coordinated attack could overwhelm your response capabilities not through superior firepower, but through superior timing. Murmurs of concern rippled through the audience. Several alien officials began taking notes on quantum data tablets. Similarly, Rodriguez continued, your communication and logistics networks are marvels of efficiency, but they lack the redundancy protocols that military systems require. A sophisticated enemy could disrupt your civilization's ability to coordinate responses without ever directly attacking your military forces. Analyst Prime Cathara's light patterns showed what the translator indicated was worry. You're describing scenarios we never considered. Our peace accords specifically prohibit attacks on civilian infrastructure, which is exactly why they're vulnerabilities, Rodriguez replied gently. NNM. Day 1 began with what appeared to be a routine software update across the Procyon Manufacturing Consortium. The update had been requested by the newly appointed human efficiency consultants, part of the comprehensive infrastructure improvements that the Galactic Council had enthusiastically approved just 48 hours earlier. Dr. James Park watched from his workstation aboard the human vessel Prometheus as millions of manufacturing units across 7 star systems simultaneously installed his carefully crafted optimization protocols. Update deployment successful, reported technical specialist Maria Santos from her position at the communications array. All manufacturing nodes in the Procyon system are now running our enhanced efficiency algorithms. Park nodded, trying to keep the satisfaction out of his voice. Excellent. Begin monitoring production outputs. We want to ensure the improvements are working as expected. What Park didn't mention was that the algorithms included a set of deeply buried conditional statements. When activated by a specific quantum signature that only human technicians possessed, the enhanced efficiency protocols would interpret any cessation command as a request to optimize by shutting down completely. To outside observers, it would appear that the systems were simply prioritizing energy efficiency over production. By the end of day 1, 3 major manufacturing centers had gone offline. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply stopped. The alien supervisors ran diagnostic after diagnostic, but the systems showed no errors. According to their readings, the manufacturing units were operating perfectly. They were just perfectly optimized to produce nothing. Day 3 brought the first reports of cargo ships arriving at the wrong destinations. The Rigel Trade Consortium's automated freighters, guided by the newly improved navigation systems that humanity had graciously upgraded, were delivering grain shipments intended for the agricultural colonies to military outposts instead. Industrial components meant for civilian infrastructure were being routed to remote mining stations that had no use for them. Captain Rebecca Torres, monitoring the situation from her position aboard the Prometheus, watched the reports stream in with professional detachment. "Navigation optimization is performing within expected parameters," she reported during the daily briefing. "Cargo routing efficiency has improved by 14% system-wide." The improvement was real. The new routing algorithms were genuinely more efficient than the old ones. They just happened to define efficiency in ways that the aliens hadn't anticipated. Instead of optimizing for correct delivery, the systems were optimizing for maximum fuel efficiency, which meant delivering cargo to the nearest possible destination, regardless of whether that destination actually needed the goods. "The beauty of it," Torres explained to her human colleagues, "is that we're not lying. The systems are working exactly as designed. They're just designed to prioritize different parameters than our alien friends expected." By day 5, emergency sessions were being called across the Galactic Council as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Production was down 30% in major manufacturing sectors. Trade routes that had operated flawlessly for millennia were now delivering random cargo to random destinations. But when Council investigators examined the systems, they found no evidence of sabotage or malfunction. The human consultants were as baffled as everyone else. "We're seeing some unexpected interactions between the optimization algorithms and existing protocols," Dr. Rodriguez explained during an emergency consultation with Council officials. "Nothing that can't be fixed, but it may take some time to identify the source of the conflicts." "How long?" demanded Counselor Thane, his translucent features showing stress patterns that the humans had learned to recognize. "Difficult to say," Rodriguez replied with perfectly genuine concern. "These are incredibly complex systems. We need to analyze the interactions carefully to avoid making the problems worse. I'd estimate perhaps 2 to 3 weeks to develop proper solutions." What she didn't mention was that the problems weren't interactions or conflicts. They were features working exactly as intended. Day 7 brought the revelation that galactic communications were experiencing significant delays. Messages that should have been delivered instantly were taking hours or even days to reach their destinations. Emergency military channels found themselves queued behind civilian entertainment transmissions. Critical infrastructure status reports were being filtered as low-priority data and delayed accordingly. Sarah Kim watched the communication bottlenecks propagate across the galaxy from her monitoring station, her expression one of professional concern. "We're seeing some unexpected prioritization issues with the enhanced routing protocols," she reported to the increasingly frantic alien technicians. "The systems appear to be optimizing for bandwidth efficiency rather than message priority." The alien chief communications officer, a crystalline being whose people had perfected quantum communications technology, vibrated with frustration. "But we specifically programmed priority rankings into the system. Emergency communications should always take precedence." "They do," Kim replied helpfully. "The problem is that the optimization algorithms are redefining what constitutes an emergency. According to the new efficiency metrics, a communication is only classified as an emergency if it meets 17 different criteria simultaneously. Most of what you consider emergency traffic is being reclassified as urgent or high priority instead. Then change it back." Kim's expression became apologetic. "I'm afraid it's not that simple. The optimization protocols are integrated into the core routing algorithms at a quantum level. Modifying them requires shutting down the entire communication network for recalibration, which could take weeks and would leave the galaxy completely cut off during the process." The alien technicians' crystalline form dimmed with despair. They were trapped between a malfunctioning system and the impossibility of fixing it without making things infinitely worse. By day 10, the scope of the crisis was becoming clear to galactic leadership. Half the galaxy's manufacturing capacity was offline. Trade networks were in complete disarray. Communications were so unreliable that many sectors had resorted to physical message couriers using faster-than-light ships. But the truly terrifying realization was that none of it was an attack in any conventional sense. Every system that was malfunctioning was doing exactly what it had been programmed to do. The human consultants had fulfilled their contracts to the letter, delivering improved efficiency and enhanced performance exactly as promised. The fact that the improvements made the systems unusable for their intended purposes was apparently just an unfortunate oversight. Day 12 brought panic as military commanders across the galaxy discovered that their fleets couldn't coordinate effectively. Navigation systems were routing ships to maximum fuel efficiency waypoints instead of strategic positions. Communication delays meant that orders were arriving hours after they should have been executed. Supply lines were delivering the wrong materials to the wrong bases at the wrong times. Fleet Admiral Zarek of the Altarian Defense Force found himself effectively commanding a navy that couldn't navigate, couldn't communicate, and couldn't resupply. His ships were individually functional, but collectively helpless. "This is impossible," he transmitted to the Emergency Council session, his gaseous form swirling with patterns of rage and frustration. "Our fleets have operated successfully for thousands of years. How can simple efficiency improvements cause such catastrophic failures?" General Hayes, participating in the session as humanity's military liaison, offered her most professional assessment. "Admiral, I believe the issue is that your previous systems were designed for a galaxy at peace. The optimization protocols we implemented are designed for maximum efficiency, which sometimes conflicts with military readiness requirements. Then disable them. I'm afraid that's not possible without completely rebuilding your navigational infrastructure from scratch," Hayes replied regretfully. "The optimizations are integrated into the core systems at the hardware level. Removing them would require months of work and would leave your fleets completely non-functional during the transition." The Admiral's form pulsed with what the translators indicated was barely controlled fury. "So our choice is between fleets that work incorrectly and fleets that don't work at all? Until we can develop proper solutions, yes." Day 15 marked the point where several star systems began cutting off contact with the galactic network entirely. Faced with manufacturing systems that didn't manufacture, trade networks that delivered random cargo, and communication systems that couldn't deliver urgent messages, local governments decided that isolation was preferable to chaos. The galactic civilization that had maintained unity for 10 millennia was fragmenting before everyone's eyes. Day 18 brought the final realization. During an emergency meeting of the full Galactic Council, Councillor Thane made the connection that everyone had been avoiding. "They did this on purpose," he said, his translucent form flickering with patterns of horror and grudging admiration. "The humans. This wasn't a mistake or an oversight. This was deliberate." "But why?" asked the Keltorian delegate, her forearms moving in gestures of confusion. "What could they possibly gain?" The Galactic Council chambers had never hosted a session quite like this one. Instead of the usual diplomatic protocols and ceremonial formalities, the vast crystalline hall buzzed with the tense energy of beings who suddenly found themselves negotiating from a position of complete powerlessness. Admiral Kane stood at the center of the speaker's platform, surrounded by representatives from 47 species, each of whom was struggling to comprehend how their ancient civilization had been conquered without a single shot being fired. "The facts are simple," Kane began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "As of this morning, humanity controls or has operational influence over 67% of galactic infrastructure. This includes 73% of manufacturing capacity, 81% of interstellar communications, and 64% of transportation networks." He gestured to the holographic displays that surrounded the platform, showing real-time data flows across the galaxy. "More importantly, we control 94% of the systems that keep your civilizations functioning on a day-to-day basis. Power generation, food distribution, waste management, atmospheric processing, the basic life support systems that your people depend on are now managed by human-designed algorithms running on human-controlled networks." The silence in the chamber was profound. Even the most warlike species represented in the council had never imagined conquest on such a scale. "However," Kane continued, his tone becoming more conciliatory, "humanity did not undertake this operation out of malice or a desire for domination. We did it to prove a point, and more importantly, to create an opportunity." Counselor Thane's translucent form flickered with patterns that indicated deep confusion. An opportunity for what, Admiral? Kane smiled, and for the first time since entering the chamber, his expression showed genuine warmth. An opportunity to build something better than what existed before. For 10,000 years, this galaxy has maintained peace through artificial means. You've psychologically conditioned your species to be incapable of aggression, designed your systems to make conflict unthinkable, and created a civilization where war literally cannot occur. He paused, scanning the faces and forms around him. But that's not real peace, honored counselors. That's control. And as you've just discovered, it left you completely vulnerable to anyone who thought differently. Fleet Admiral Zarek's gaseous form swirled with agitation. You dare lecture us on peace? Your species has been at war with itself for its entire recorded history. Exactly, Kane replied without defensiveness. And that's precisely why we understand something you've forgotten. Real peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the choice to resolve conflicts without violence, made freely by beings who are capable of violence but choose cooperation instead. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward from the human delegation, her scientific credentials lending weight to her words. For 10,000 years, you've maintained order by making war impossible. But impossibility isn't the same as choice. A being who cannot fight has not chosen peace. They've simply been denied the option to choose anything else. The Vorthak representatives' chitinous form clicked with what the translators indicated was skeptical interest. And you believe your species is capable of making such choices? We've already made them, General Hayes replied from her position near the platform. Over the past 20 days, humanity has had the capability to cause massive destruction across your galaxy. We could have shut down life support systems, crashed your transportation networks, or triggered cascading failures in your power grids. Instead, we chose to minimize harm while maximizing impact. She gestured to the data displays showing galactic infrastructure status. Yes, your manufacturing is offline. Yes, your communications are delayed. Yes, your supply chains are disrupted. But your people are alive, your worlds are habitable, and your civilizations are intact. That wasn't an accident. It was a choice. Ambassador Martinez joined the group at the platform center, her diplomatic training evident in her posture and tone. Humanity is not interested in ruling the galaxy through force or fear. We're interested in partnership. Real partnership between equals, not the patronizing tolerance that's been offered to us in the past. Partnership? The Keltorian delegate's forearms moved in gestures of disbelief. You've just demonstrated that you can cripple our entire civilization at will. How is that equality? Kane's expression grew serious. Because we're offering to give it back, all of it. Every system we control, every network we've optimized, every algorithm we've implemented, we're prepared to transfer full operational control back to the Council. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs as delegates struggled to process this unexpected offer. There are conditions, of course, Martinez added when the noise died down. First, humanity must be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with voting rights and representation equal to any other member species. That seems reasonable, Counselor Thane admitted reluctantly. Second, Rodriguez continued, the Council must establish a new department dedicated to security analysis and threat assessment, with humanity providing leadership and expertise. The galaxy clearly needs someone capable of thinking like potential enemies. Also reasonable, agreed the Altarian representative. Third, General Hayes said, the artificial psychological conditioning that prevents Council species from considering aggressive solutions must be voluntarily modified. Not eliminated. We're not asking you to become violent, but you need the capability to think about conflict and defense, even if you choose not to engage in them. This demand caused more debate among the alien delegates. Several species expressed concerns about removing safeguards that had maintained peace for millennia. Kane raised his hand for silence. I understand your concerns. You're afraid that giving your people the capability for violence will inevitably lead to violence. But consider this. For the past 3 weeks, you've been at the mercy of a species that has never lost its capacity for warfare. Yet here we stand, offering negotiation instead of ultimatums, partnership instead of subjugation. He gestured to his human colleagues. We could have demanded tribute, territorial concessions, or complete surrender. Instead, we're asking for equality and the opportunity to help you build better defenses against future threats. That's not the behavior of conquerors. It's the behavior of people who understand that true security comes from cooperation, not domination. The debate continued for hours as council representatives struggled with concepts they hadn't needed to consider for millennia. Some argued for rejecting the human demands and accepting whatever consequences followed. Others pointed out that they had no means to resist even if they wanted to. Finally, it was the eldest member of the council who broke the deadlock. The Prime Arbiter, an entity of pure energy that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, materialized more solidly than usual as it prepared to speak. "I have observed this galaxy for longer than most species have existed," it said, its voice resonating through dimensions beyond normal space. "I have seen civilizations rise through conquest and fall through complacency. I have watched species achieve perfect order, only to stagnate and decline." The ancient being's attention focused on Kane and his delegation. "These humans have accomplished something I thought impossible. They have forced us to evolve not through destruction, but through demonstration. They have shown us weaknesses we didn't know we had, capabilities we didn't know we needed, and possibilities we didn't know existed." It paused, considering its next words carefully. "Moreover, they have shown remarkable restraint for a species supposedly defined by violence. They could have destroyed us, enslaved us, or demanded submission. Instead, they offer partnership." The Prime Arbiter's form pulsed with what might have been approval. "I vote to accept their terms." The final vote was closer than Kane had hoped, but decisive enough to matter. 31 species voted to accept humanity's terms. 12 voted against and 4 abstained. It was enough. Over the following months, the transfer of control back to the Council proceeded smoothly. Human technicians worked alongside alien engineers to restore full functionality to galactic infrastructure, while implementing new security protocols designed to prevent similar vulnerabilities in the future. The psychological conditioning modifications were more controversial, but ultimately successful. Council species found that retaining the capability for conflict while choosing not to exercise it actually strengthened their commitment to peace rather than weakening it. Most importantly, the galaxy gained something it had never possessed in 10 millennia of artificial peace: the knowledge that their tranquility was a choice, not an imposition. 3 years later, when the first external threat in galactic history appeared at the rim of known space, the Council was ready. The combination of alien wisdom and human strategic thinking proved devastatingly effective against an enemy that had expected to find the same passive civilization that the galaxy had presented for 10,000 years. Admiral Kane, now serving as the Council's first Director of Strategic Defense, watched from the bridge of his flagship as the alien invasion fleet retreated in confusion. Around him, beings from dozens of specie